Hi everyone, Tony Tonkin here from the Child Protection Party. Glad that you could be with me on this particular live feed. As I often say, every live feed that we do, I think is relatively important, but that's just my humble opinion. But this one is significant because it was presented to us today by the ABC that they are pushing for an inquiry into the child protection system itself. Now, I'm assuming that this is a national inquiry they're seeking because they have been endeavouring to write articles, or they have written some articles about people that have had issues with the child protection system, families, particularly kids that have been through that system. And as a result of their efforts to gather information, they've had some 700 people contact them in relation to their personal issues around how the child protection system has disadvantaged them. It's been horrific. And I think probably to the ABC it's been somewhat of a surprise, even though to you and I there shouldn't be any surprise at all. As a result of all of this, they are now calling for an inquiry into the child protection system. It needs to be said that there have been many inquiries, as we all know, well over 40 inquiries in the last 15 years into child protection. Most of those inquiries are state-based inquiries. Most of them come up with a whole host of recommendations time and time again, and some of those recommendations are considered, the majority of them perhaps not. And in many cases, the majority of those recommendations don't recommend the sort of changes that we here at the Child Protection Party believe are important. So, for example, one of those issues that are important are the way that social workers and others label parents as bad parents, see them entirely in relation to their past experiences, and fail to see any changes that the parents have made in order to have the children either remain with them or for those children to be returned to them. It is appalling that we find ourselves with a system which continually fails our children, parents, and destroys and disrupts families so that those families will never have an opportunity to recover. The child protection system in Australia has always been a failure. The foster care system has always been a failure from its foundation in the mid-19th century to today. We need to find a way to make changes within the child protection system which is going to benefit all of us. We at the Child Protection Party at the moment are putting together some statistics which we'll be reporting to you in a week or so in relation to the cost to you, or the cost in particularly to taxpayers, of a child protection system that simply doesn't work. Now, I'm going to play for you two videos. I was going to do two separate videos on this issue, but I'm going to play for one which was directly from the ABC this morning, and another one also from the ABC in relation to a pedophile who worked for the Western Australian Cricket Association. So I'll play firstly the one from the ABC this morning in relation to a potential inquiry. The important thing to remember about this video is that I think it's tonight at 7 o'clock they will be furnishing their report on their investigation into child protection here in Australia. It'd be worth having a look at, and they're going to present to you some samples of what that would be like. So this is why I'm doing the live feed now, hoping that many of you will have an opportunity to watch that on the ABC. So here's the first clip in relation to an inquiry.
The ABC is bringing you the harrowing results of a major nationwide investigation into child protection. More than 700 people have come forward. You'll hear from several of them in a special report airing tonight on ABC News at 7. Today, we can bring you this excerpt from Cora Ingram, a former New South Wales caseworker, manager and ministerial policy advisor. She says statistics around child protection are fudged and that a Royal Commission could lead to better scrutiny. Let's take a listen.
I think the public image is more important to this department than it is to caring for children and families. It's all about being able to say to the Ombudsman and the Children's Guardian that look at all these figures, look at all these reports that have been investigated, when a lot of them haven't been investigated. They've just had a case file opened and that's about it. You can play with the system so it looks like work is being done when actually nothing's being done. A Royal Commission where people have an external look in to see what's happening. I know the review agencies are supposed to do that, but that's not what is happening, so perhaps a Royal Commission would be the best answer.
And if this story has raised any issues for you, you can get help by calling the National Sexual Assault and Family Violence Counselling Helpline, 1-800-RESPECT, which is 1-800-737-732.
The issue is that they're seeking, or they're suggesting, this woman in this instance was suggesting a Royal Commission into child protection, and we certainly wouldn't hold an objection to that. But it depends on what the Royal Commission is assigned to do. The Royal Commission needs to have a look at not just the workloads of social workers, but their actual practices and how those practices impact on families and whether those practices are in accord with social work practice as laid out by the Australian Association of Social Workers Code of Ethics. So there, and to us and to me as a social worker, that's been a primary issue for many years. And in fact, it is the whole and total problem. It is also about how social workers function, under what circumstances do they function, that is the caseloads, the degree to which social workers are bullied into making decisions, how that decision process takes place across a range of organisations and particularly management structures. So they're issues which need to take shape. But what we're asking you to do is to contact us, talk to us about the issues that you've had. We may be able to put together a video component of all of those issues that you present, and present that also to an inquiry. We did a documentary called Silent Voices, which is on our YouTube channel. Please check that out if you wouldn't mind. But we did a whole range of interviews with people concerning this type of issue. But we want to continue doing that work, because unless you have a voice and unless you can express how it is for you and your children, or if you've kids and you've been in care and you've come out of care, we're particularly interested in what you have to say as well. And we can furnish more of those stories to the ABC so that they can continue to follow up on that 700 odd inquiries that they have had. The thing to remember is this provides a unique opportunity for us as an organisation, us as an organisation that's interested in protecting and improving the outcomes for kids, and also making sure that we can change the child protection system, which is dysfunctional, broken, and just doesn't provide the services that it should provide for families that are in need. So let us know what you think. I'll get back to, there's a number of people who have come online and offering their thoughts. I'll get back to you in a moment. I just wanted to, I was going to do two separate videos, as I said before. I've decided to combine them together and do one which came out recently also about child abuse at the West Australian Cricket Association. And this brings up a whole range of topics for us. Like, why don't people know who protected these terrible individuals from doing what it is that they did? And there was a clip that came also up on the ABC today, which I've also taken, and I'll play that to you right now, and we'll talk about that on the other side.
Confirmed, it harboured a now notorious paedophile in its ranks for 29 years. Roy Wenlock was given unsupervised access to children after the WACA created a full-time development officer role for him in 1979. The WACA became aware of the abuse a decade ago and has apologised to the victims.
Roy Hamilton Wenlock was an ever-present figure in WA cricket for decades as a ground announcer, museum curator, umpire and long-time WACA employee. When he died in 2007, the WACA described him as one of its most recognisable voices and the spiritual father of its museum. But Wenlock's work at the WACA hid decades of abuse.
To have had it happened inside an institution that's so well loved as the WACA is dreadful, and we absolutely apologise to anybody who suffered as a result of activities that went on in the past.
WA's Blaxall inquiry into child sex offences found Wenlock sexually abused boys when he would lure them back to his home as a warden at St Christopher's Hostel in Northam, east of Perth, during the 1960s and 1970s. But the behaviour did not stop then. Between 1979 and 2007, Wenlock worked in a range of roles at the WACA, most of which gave him unsupervised access to children. Justice Blaxall concluded there was ample evidence to show that Wenlock would engage in grooming behaviour with boys he encountered across his 4 decades at the WACA. One of those boys, a man now in his mid-40s, says that while performing WACA Drinks Boys duties under Wenlock's direction in 1989, he was taken back to Wenlock's house with other boys and witnessed abuse. At the house, the man says, Wenlock encouraged the boys to wrestle him, something the man says he found so unusual and weird that he declined Wenlock's invitation. I found it quite confronting, he says, and it went on for quite a while. I was uncomfortable with what was happening, he added. Wenlock died in 2007 and was never charged. The WACA has confirmed it's currently engaged in civil litigation with a survivor of Wenlock's abuse.
Anybody who suffered at any time as a result of activities that went on around our organisation should come forward and alert us to them.
The WACA says it first became aware of Wenlock's history a decade ago, when a survivor approached the organisation.
At the time that we first became aware, we did a lot of checking our records and so forth and speaking to people, and there was nothing to indicate that they knew what his background had been.
One survivor of Wenlock's abuse has already had his claim processed and approved. Nick Perpich, ABC News.
So one of the other issues around, well, the primary issue for me is, how does a person for 29 years continually abuse children? And what did the authorities know that prevented them from taking any action? And why isn't it that those that were abused didn't believe it was safe enough to be able to come and tell others that they were being abused? I think the sad thing is that even though this has some historical element to it, that doesn't mean that this sort of behaviour isn't happening today, because we know that it is. I think as a parent, you need to be mindful of who your children are with, who are those people, what sort of grooming behaviours have you noticed, how often do these people have children on their own, do they encourage children to be with them in their home or on camps on their own, are there other parents or adults present, who are those parents and adults, and what sort of behaviours do you notice that they're doing in terms of the parents too? Because remember, pedophiles will also groom parents so that the parents begin to trust the pedophile and will allow them to have the child with them. So be careful about this. I think one of the problems you've got also as a parent is that you can start to believe that everybody you know happens to be a pedophile. The scoutmaster's a pedophile, the local minister or priest or religious leader is a pedophile, and we know that that's not the case. But we still need to have our antennas up and be wary as to what's happening. And it seems to me that there's a lot of conversations at the moment around child protection in general. So we've got the 2 examples that I presented today, which is the Royal Commission, perhaps, into child protection nationally. I think that would be a fabulous idea. As I said to you, I'd like you to think about ways by which you could become involved in that through the Child Protection Party. And certainly one of the things that you could do is that you could register with us, and it's simply by registering us with us here at childprotection.party, and it costs $12 a year, for Christ's sake, it's bugger all money. So register with us, become a member, become active so that your voice can be louder. We have a lot of people now who contact us through our Facebook, a lot of people email us, but the best way that you can become involved and have a real voice is simply by calling us, by becoming a member and becoming a part of CPP. I also want to say that if anybody's watching this on our YouTube channel, or if you're not watching on our YouTube channel, please go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. The more subscribers we get, the better for us, and hopefully we could monetize that at the end of the day, and we'll be able to receive some income from that. So there's been some interesting, so thanks for all of those people that have sent texts. There have been heaps of them. So Jane Stokes said she'd be more than happy to give evidence to query. Look, one of the things you can do, as I said earlier, is that you can contact us and we could record an interview, and then we could either put that together with a whole series of other interviews, or we could just do it as a standalone interview, and then we could send that to an inquiry if it happens. Or one of the other things that we can do is take some of those interviews and send them to the ministers in each state, or send them to the Children's Commissioner in Canberra. So there's lots of alternatives, lots of things we can do as a party to represent you. The worst people to live with is a narc by experience with a violent narcissist. So I was talking about narcissists. They twist the whole story by making themselves as a victim of our own behaviour. An abusive reaction is typical, and since narcissists are charismatic and charming to people, this is so true. So thanks, Benita. I agree with all of that. And she's written a lot, so I'll go through that later. Thanks very much, Benita. They don't understand the impact of children that have been coercive control. One of the other things that I notice in the child protection system is the way they try to coerce parents into doing what the department or the social worker wants them to do. And there's a number of parents who've said to me, in fact, that it seems like being in an abusive relationship, because the same behaviours that you receive from your abusive partner, you're also receiving from the department. And one of those behaviours is about not being believed. So, an abusive partner might say, for example, that, where did you go? What did you do? And you tell them and they don't believe you. It's like the department saying, you're no longer on drugs. You say, no, I haven't taken drugs for 8 months. And they say they don't believe you. And you say that you're not going to go back to my partner. I've had enough of him or her. And they say, no, I don't believe you about that either. I believe that you will, because your history says that that's always what you've done. That is coercive control, and the department is as good at that as the people that a lot of these parents are endeavouring to escape. So, and of course, the interesting thing is they're never really, the department or the social workers themselves very rarely recognise that this is the behaviour that they're doing, the very behaviour that they're asking a certain parent to not become involved in or to manage, but they're modelling the same sort of behaviour as well. So it makes you wonder how they review or view their own practices. So Angel Hale says, how do we reach out, Tony? Is this directly to you, or can you pin a link in this live? You can reach out. Here's our email address. So if you want to contact us, just contact admin@childprotection.party. And you'll find on our front of our Facebook page there is a mobile number that you can call to contact Avery, and he can make any appointments necessary with you. Kim says, never mind, no one's paying attention. The point is that, and I guess to some extent we get a lot of that who notices what we're doing? We have about 10,000 people on our Facebook page now. Those numbers are increasing all the time. None of this stuff that we're asking happens overnight. We're aware of that. But what it does do is, you've got a choice, folks. Either you give up and you hide from the problems and you just make out they don't exist, or and you just say, I don't want to get involved. Right? It's too hard. I don't want to get involved. And to a degree, I understand that. But on the other hand, if you really want to fight this stuff, and if you really want to make changes, not just for yourself in your own situation, your own kids, and your own family, then let's make that fight for other people, right? Let's recognise that there's a gross injustice being performed here, and that we need to find a way to resolve it. And we need to find more appropriate methods. You can yell, scream, and shout and abuse people if you like, but it doesn't solve the problem. The problem is that the real issues in relation to child protection do not get identified, and people within governments do not have the courage and the guts to confront those people that make decisions within the department in order to make the changes that are required. That's just a fact. And we need to make sure that there are people in Parliament who do make those decisions, who have got the courage and determination to make changes. We know that in South Australia, in terms of registration of social workers, we know that the Greens put their hand up and they did do just that, change the rules within South Australia in terms of social workers being registered, which may or may not impact child protection system later on. We don't know yet. But at least someone made the effort. We have to make the effort. You and I together have to make that effort. And so we have to find a way to work together. You know, we don't have all the ideas that are available to us here at the Child Protection Party. We have some, we know what the issues are, but sitting out there amongst you probably sits some great ideas that we could invest in order to bring about the change that is required. But in order to do that, you need to have a conversation with us and us a conversation with you. So get involved. So Tammy says, this is good news. Our system is more than just broken. The system destroys, breaks families and does more damage than parents do. They victimise survivors of domestic violence. They certainly do, and hold them responsible for something they encountered. How it's gone on this long is beyond me. Tammy, I agree. We've been fighting this for nearly 7 years now, but it's a long-term battle. And let's face it, if we weren't fighting some of these issues, who would be? At least we're trying to make an effort. I'm not suggesting that we're always successful, because we're not, but we certainly are a voice. We're your voice, so make the most of us. Use us as best as you can. Why haven't, Jill says, they call it tattooed on their forehead. In this particular case, this guy died. So he'd spent his whole life abusing children, and no one ever caught him out until after he'd passed away. So, what do we do? Lock them up, throw away the key? I don't know, but we need to make sure that our children are safe, so they're not encountering any of these terrible individuals anyway. Tracy Lee, every child is abused and okay. Look, if you wish to contact us, please do. Just remember that you need to go to our webpage to become a member. It's up on the screen now. You need to email us at this particular email address. And also, please remember that if you wish to keep in contact with us, and we do a lot of stuff, we drop a lot of stuff on YouTube, please make sure that you also subscribe to our YouTube channel. So thanks everybody, thanks for being with me. And look, before I go, can I just ask you all to share this on your Facebook page so we can have as many people as we can contact us. And also remember that at 7 o'clock tonight on the ABC, there is that report that I reported on earlier on. So everybody watch that. Go onto our YouTube, go back to this particular discussion, and let's talk about it. I'll be interested to hear what you have to say. Thanks everybody. Take care. Look after yourselves. And more importantly, be safe.